everybody. This is Dr. Evan with Dr. Evan's Almost Daily Dose. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. So today I would like to talk about the top 2 things that you absolutely must do in order to get rid of mold. But first, let me introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Evan Hirsch. I'm a functional medicine MD, and I help people struggling with fatigue get their lives back. And I do this through a blog that I've just started, a book that I wrote called Fix Your Fatigue, and then online courses, and of course seeing patients in my clinic at thehirschcenter.com. So what are these things? So the first thing you absolutely must do in order to get rid of mold is you have to get rid of mold out of your body. So it seems like it's reasonable enough, but what a lot of people don't realize is that you may have been exposed to mold 20 years ago, and it is still in your body, and it is the reason why whenever the weather changes and it gets cold and damp, that you feel worse, or whenever people start mowing their lawns and they start kicking up all the molds that are underneath all the grass, you may think you're reacting to grass, but you're actually reacting to molds. So that's the first thing, is you've got to get rid of mold out of your body. The second thing is you've got to get rid of mold out of your home or out of your living environment. So if you are living in mold, you will not get better until you get out of that environment. And so that's just so crazy important. I just can't emphasize it enough that a lot of people, they're trying to get better. They're taking everything. You could take the absolute best treatments in the world, and if you are still living in a moldy environment, you will not get better. So you have to get out. So one of the ways that you can test this is by going on vacation and getting out of that home, usually for about 5 days, and you'll notice a huge difference. The same goes for work. Most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people live, work in moldy places. So schools, workplaces, you have to pay attention to this. So let's say you've got an extended weekend, you go away, you come back to work and you feel worse. A lot of times people will say, well, it must be the stress. That's probably what's making me feel worse, is the stress of going back to the work. Actually, it's probably the mold. It definitely could be. So if you smell that musty smell, if there's a lot of people who are sick around you, it definitely could be mold, and you're going to want to do a mold test. So let's jump into testing then, and then next time we'll get to treatment. So in terms of testing, if you want to test the mold that's inside your body, there's a couple different ways of doing it. The best way is looking at a real-time labs urine test. Now this test is quite expensive at $700, but a repeat test is $200. So it's really the best test to look at mold toxins in your body. So if your body is producing these mold toxins, it's going to show up in the urine. Now that's different than mold spores. So molds will produce spores, but then it's the toxins that are produced by those which aren't always picked up. So that's the first thing. You can also do what's called a VCS test, and you can get that checked at vcstest.com. And that is a visual contrast test where you can look at the difference between dark and light lines, and that can be a great indicator of what's going on in the occipital region of the brain, which is the back part of the brain that has to do with vision. So, and that test is about 92% sensitive, so it's a very good test for looking at biotoxin, which is mostly mold, maybe a little bit of Lyme. So those are 2 good tests for looking at mold inside your body. And then in terms of looking at mold inside your environment, you're going to want to do what's called an ERMI test, E-R-M-I, by Mycometrics. That really is the best test out there. Also working with your local building biologist that you can find by Googling them can be incredibly helpful. The guy that I like in our region in the Pacific Northwest is Jason Kester at kesterclear.com. And then hopefully that building biologist will be able to assess where you have mold in your house, if you do have mold, and make some recommendations about getting rid of it. So next time, we're going to talk about treatment. Once again, this is Dr. Evan. Thank you so much for watching.